Hello, and welcome once again to the latest and greatest episodes of the Secrets of the High Demand Coach. And I'm here with yet another high demand coach, and that is the wonderful and lovely Miss Jennifer Drago. And for over 30 years, Jennifer has served as a corporate strategist and award-winning planner. She's helped organizations implement a laser-focused vision and strategy to guide their operations and their growth. Today, she serves busy, overwhelmed entrepreneurs and leaders as a business strategist and coach, teaching them the strategic success principles to apply in their own businesses to increase their profits, work fewer hours, and amplify their impact. Absolutely fascinating. I'm so excited to unpack that. But before we jump straight into the good stuff here, Jen, welcome to the show. I'd love for you to just share a little bit with us about your story. How'd you get into coaching and why?
You bet. Well, you mentioned I was in corporate for 30 years and working at an executive level for most of those years in healthcare and senior living organizations, which were predominantly nonprofits. And so I really love having an impact. And for all those years, it was mainly helping the organization have an impact in the community. But of course, as a leader, I was coaching and mentoring others to grow in their positions. And that was something that I really enjoyed. So when I left corporate, which was about 15 months ago, I made two decisions. First is that I wanted to serve folks who were really starting their own small business. So entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, small business leaders, whatever they would consider themselves. And I wanted to teach them the principles that I used in bigger organizations for success. And a lot of those revolve around strategy and visioning and goal setting and things that aren't always sexy, but but definitely have an impact. And I wanted to, help them get further faster was really my goal. And the second thing was I really wanted to help those business leaders step into their CEO role and
Mm,
really understand what that meant because many business leaders I think come from the creative side, and even if they didn't come from the creative side, they have an expertise that they want to share. They may not have had business education, they may not have seen the types of things that we tend to learn in business school or graduate school and in corporate settings. So I just wanted to be able to share that. And so those are the two things that I've been working on for the past 15 months.
that's fantastic. Now, one of the things that you mentioned there is, moving to being a CEO, right? And I think what a lot of entrepreneurs do, because there's a time and a place for it, but they tend to think that the work they do is the work that the business does.
Mhm.
Right. But fundamentally, the work of a founder, of a CEO, is to build the business that can do the work.
Correct.
Right. And so what do you find are some of the distinctions or maybe even some of the mindset, changes that need to happen for someone to move from that entrepreneur, roll up my sleeves, get the work done to being the competent CEO that their organization needs?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you asked that because it is really a shift, right? And I think in the early days of our business, we are doing all the things and we're wearing all the hats and we're trying to figure out, strategically, okay, how do I bring revenue in? What are my offers? How am I going to serve people? And for many people, staying in that realm, they're kind of trading time for dollars, right? And what you need to do as a CEO, if you really want your business to grow. Now, if you just want to be a true service provider, I do this for an hour and I get paid this fee, that's fine, and you don't ever want to grow. That's one thing. But if you do see this business growing, if you want to scale the impact that you want to have, there's a couple things that need to happen. One is that you need to have a pretty clear vision of where you want to take the organization, at least over the short term, the next 3 years, because then you can set your goals to start putting the foundational things in place to allow that to happen. So, for example, you might need to automate some of your processes. You might need at some point when you get to a certain revenue figure, hire a virtual assistant part time that can help you do some of those tasks uh, that you shouldn't take your high value time for, and you can pay somebody less
Right.
expensively to do that time, to do that kind of work. Another thing that folks need to really think about is to grow. we generally need to spend time on the strategic work of the business. And that means not serving clients, but growing the clients. So in order to grow clients, maybe I need to create a digital course because in addition to my one-on-one time, I want to be able to, scale a digital asset that ultimately will be more passive. Well, it's going to take time. I have to organize my content and write it and video it and market it. If we're trying to grow our leads, we need time to be prospecting. And so one of the things that I love to introduce to our to entrepreneurs is the idea of a CEO day,
Mm,
which is a day, and I have one of these, I do it on Mondays, but it's a day when I update all my dashboards so I know, where I'm trending in terms of my followers, my prospects, my revenue, my clients, all the important metrics to my business.
yeah.
I am spending time engaging with people with potential podcasting opportunities and speaking opportunities so that I can grow my authority. I'm talking and sending messages out to prospective clients who, maybe I've talked to in the past, but they, just need another touch point. I think
Mm,
somebody said recently that it can take up to 30 touch points for a client. It used to be they needed to hear your message 7 times, but in today's information overload society, it might be up to
well,
30 times. So those kinds of activities, one will grow your business. If you don't take the time out to do them, they won't grow your business. And if you're always engaged in serving your clients and in the operations, you can't take the time to think strategically and act strategically. So for
right.
me, that CEO day is all about strategically doing those activities that grow your business.
Wow. Well, that's awesome, awesome idea. I love the CEO day. It's great. What would you say is the big difference? So if we were to take, Joe entrepreneur, if you will, and say, what does their life look like now? What does their life look like after, rocking it out on the CEO day for a few months? Like, what are the big kind of differences that you see between those two leaders and their lifestyles?
Well, hopefully, when when we engage, when we start our business, like I said, we're doing all the things, we're trying to figure out what works. We're probably working well more than we want to. And as we get more strategic about growing the business, we'll probably see some of that growth, which in the short term could be add additional discomfort because it's more time that the
Mm,
solopreneur needs to work. But what that additional revenue will allow you to do is leverage contractors and employees, bringing people onto your team so that you can delegate again some of those lower value tasks
right.
and be able to really focus in your area of genius. So over time, what happens, and I think it's this curve where you're like working, 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 and then it starts to get easy because you're putting
Mm,
in that strategic time and you have a team to help. And so over time, what I think happens is that we end up working fewer hours and the work is more meaningful to us and feels more impactful, maybe hopefully more enjoyable because we're in our zone of genius.
right. Why do you think folks struggle to make that leap? Right? Why is it that it's so hard to make that transition we've been talking about from the kind of entrepreneur to CEO?
Um, well, one, I think some folks don't have that realization, perhaps that there's a difference, right? So there has to be an awareness of, this is how I'm operating now. This is how I want to operate going forward. The second is we know in the short term, as I just described, it might actually result in a little bit more work and trying to and having to prioritize different parts of your week to do that different work. The third thing I think is that I'm really excited to talk to you about from a coaching perspective is there's mindset challenges that can sneak in, right? So as we're starting our own business, we might experience fear of failure, a lack of self-confidence. We might feel imposter syndrome from time to time. And one of the things that I love to work with entrepreneurs, especially on a one-on-one basis, is whatever challenge that they're coming upon in a given day or week. Um, that we have to do the inner work while we're doing the outer work for our business. And the
Mm,
inner work is figuring out what to do with these fears and doubts that can creep in. And I have some great strategies to work on that because I do think that they're present for most of us at least once in a given week, if not on a daily basis.
I think that's so important for folks to hear, because if you're sitting there in the entrepreneur seat and feeling that way, right? Imposter syndrome, one step away from failure, waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? It feels like you're the only one who feels that way.
Mhm.
And oftentimes there's not a whole lot of folks that you can share it with. Can't really share it with your spouse because they're already scared, of the entrepreneurial journey. You can't share it with the employees that are helping you out, right? It's just can't share it with your friends because they don't understand it, because they're like, well, why'd you do it in the first place? It's like you brought it on yourself. And so it's like, most of us just end up kind of collapsing into ourselves because there's not an outlet for that. And that's why it's so important having someone like you who can come along and just say, hey, that's normal, right? Let's talk about that, right? And get it out into the open. I think that's so important. And I think the biggest thing, and you said this, like everyone struggles with it. It's not like, I've had some folks who say that were female entrepreneurs, like, I thought that was a female thing. It's not. It shows up differently for different folks, right? They may have different fears, but everyone struggles with some underlying fundamental fear. It's almost to the extent that it feels like a requirement to be an entrepreneur, right? Like there's that driving force, but we don't want to get stuck with it. And I love that you address that and go straight after it, because I think that's so important. You mentioned having strategies to deal with that. And I know that, that's an area that we could spend a lot of time, but maybe just one or two things that someone could try today. If they're like, yes, I do feel that way, but they feel stuck in it. What can they do?
Yeah, well, I will share this exercise, and I will say it's not a cure-all the first time. You have to keep doing it over and over again. But the first thing is to just really become aware of what you're feeling in the moment. And so an example, and it might not show up as a fear of failure. So an example might be you're procrastinating on posting some content or sending an email newsletter or something that's making you feel vulnerable. And you think, you say, well, I'm not really procrastinating. I'm just super busy. Well, if it's important to grow your business and you're not doing it, you're procrastinating. And procrastinating usually has an underlying fear attached to it if we, pull back the layers of the onion. But what I've learned through a coaching certification program that I've recently taken to dig a little deeper into this inner work is that these fears generally come from our earlier self, our younger self. They're from our childhood. They're programmed at an early age, and we don't even realize it. And so they live in our unconscious. And sometimes, sometimes they come out with, a roar, and other times, they just sit there and hinder us from reaching our true potential. And so if we become aware of them, and then we realize maybe where that came from in our childhood, we don't have to know the exact moment of when that fear came up, but what we need to realize about it is what it's trying to do for us, and it's innocent. So a fear of failure or a lack of self-confidence is generally your younger self unconsciously trying to keep you safe, trying to keep you secure. And how does it do that? By keeping you in your comfort zone, by giving you excuses like procrastination. And so if you can, one, become aware, two, say, yes, I know this is I know why I'm feeling this. It's trying to keep me safe. And then three, I know it might sound hokey, but bear with me. You thank it. You thank the fear. Thank you for keeping me safe, and I'm safe. And I'm going to take that action that I was procrastinating on. And as you do this more and more, and particularly when you take that action, that fear starts to dissipate over time. So that's an action that somebody can take today and every day.
Yeah, that's excellent. There was an article I wrote and said, fear is fundamentally flawed, but incredibly useful, right? It's one of those things that if we don't address it, it's running rampant under the surface. If we address it and just stop with it, it still has its way, right? It'll keep us from stepping out of our comfort zone. But if we use it to say, hey, what is the important work that I need to do, right? And like you're saying, we're kind of reconciling with that and then stepping into the danger zone, if you will, it becomes just a massively useful tool. So I love that you've given us kind of steps to approach that and address that. That's excellent. All right, so this is the moment I'm always excited about. It's the one that I've been waiting for our whole conversation, and that is where I asked this question, and it's, what is the biggest secret that you wish wasn't a secret? Right? What is that one thing that you wish everyone out there listening today knew?
We kind of just covered, but I'll try to dig into it a little bit more. And that is that everybody, so let me preface this by telling another part of my story. When I came out of corporate 15 months ago and went to launch my business, I found, and again, I've been doing this work for 30 years. I had fear of failure. I had
Mm,
fear of being seen on social media. I had lack of self confidence. I had self doubt. It crept in every single day. And so, what I think the biggest secret is that we have to do the inner work as well as the outer work. And sometimes, it's inconvenient. And when you're in the middle of launching a business and trying to serve your clients to feel these things, just take the time to lean in and understand them and maybe take some of those steps we just talked about, because it will help you really live to your full potential. The only thing that holds us back is what's in our head, what the stories we're telling ourselves. And like I said, most of it is unconscious. 95% of your thought of the things that hold you back are unconscious. And most of them were ingrained in us from our childhood. So they're
mm,
innocent. There's nothing wrong with us. We just need to learn how to deal with it.
yeah, fantastic. So I've worked with enough coaches, consultants, advisors to know that we've got a knack for giving our very best time and energy to our clients and can forget to spend time working on our own business. So I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have you take off your coach hat for a moment, put on your CEO hat with the rest of us, step into the ring and tell us a little bit about what the next phase of growth looks like for you and your business and the challenges that you're working to overcome.
You bet. So I'm pretty new, as you know. So right now, one of the things that I'm really trying to do is to grow my authority, I will call it, and my credibility online. I've really not. I'm 54, so I'm not your typical social media user. So I've really had to learn how to incorporate social media for my business and how to build my authority. But I'm doing that through a variety of ways. So one of my goals is to have thought leadership articles published in reputable publications, but also online through LinkedIn and things like that. To grow my speaking appearances, to grow my podcast appearances, because that's the way I'm going to be known and get more comfortable sharing my message. So that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I'm working on growing. And then I actually, you can see my post-it notes up here, and I probably need to take these down, but I've actually sketched out a digital course that I want to teach. So some people one-on-one coaching isn't their thing. They don't have the time, perhaps the resources, but I think I can teach a lot of what I like to do from a strategy perspective in a digital course.
Mhm.
And the brainstorm I had when I was putting all those post-it notes together is that's really the basis for a book too. So I think
Wow.
a book is in my 2023 future.
That's fantastic. Well, if and when that book is written, we'll have to have you back on to talk about it and share it. That'll be a lot of fun. Now, I know for some folks that have just been sitting here listening, and it's just like every word is like, yes, absolutely. Like she's on to something. I need what Jen has. So, how can folks get connected with you and learn more?
Well, thank you for asking. So the best place is probably my website, which is peak2profit.com. And you can see my business name right there in my Zoom caption, and peak2profit.com. So that's where you can connect with me for a free strategy call. You can get my eyes on your business or your business challenge for 30 minutes with no obligation. I love to help people kind of think through problems, especially from a strategy perspective. And one of the things that I do offer to entrepreneurs and small business owners after that strategy call, if they're interested, is a 1 day intensive where we can get really clear on your vision for your business, your strategy to get there, your roadmap, your action plan, timelines, metrics, all of that. And then as a business owner, you get to just put the blinders on and work the plan because the plan's right there in front of you. So
Yeah.
those are the things that I love to do. I have a freebie on my website that I would love to tell your listeners about, because as a business owner, I mentioned that one of the best things to do to start thinking about growing your business. And it's actually I forgot to say this earlier when you asked me about CEO stuff, is the most important thing for a CEO to do in their business is have that vision for where you're taking your business. And so I use a process called creating a vision narrative. And I have a step-by-step workbook on how you can do that. And it's available as a free download on my website. So that URL is peaktoprofit.com/F for freebie /vision. And
Awesome.
so people can download that and work on that. And honestly, that could be a first great step before they call and book the strategy call, because then we can talk about that vision. So
Excellent. So just to make sure everyone got that, that's peaktoprofit.com /F/vision. Is that right?
correct.
Perfect. And we'll get that link in the show notes for anyone who's interested. Absolutely go check it out. I know that you'll love it. Jen, again, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate having you on the show. And for everyone listening, we're so glad you're here. Your time and attention, the greatest honor that you can give. I hope that this time was as impactful for you as it was for me. I know it was amazing, and I can't wait to see you next time. Take care.